Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle. My two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed, will be here momentarily. Don't worry, they'll be here. But the Burgundy Zone is a part of the Frederick Podcast Network. You can find out more by going to www.listenfrederick.com. But it's okay, no time to worry, because we are now rejoined by Sam Fortier of the Washington Post. Weird Monday, Sam. How are you doing?
Yeah, thank you. It's been a weird last, 24 hours now with Brian Robinson. So yeah, it's been a kind of a somber time that's put football in perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And almost 24 hours because it was at 6 o'clock yesterday. So if you can kind of give us an update with Brian Robinson. Obviously, we know up to this point that it was a botched kind of robbery and Brian Robinson was shot twice, one in the glute, one in the leg. Is there any more updates you can give us?
Yeah, so and apparently he wrestled one gun away from one assailant. It was a Glock that was used in the shooting. But basically, what we know based on his teammates, Ron Rivera, and kind of his Instagram post is that he had surgery at some point. After that, he is at a hospital in D.C., and he said the surgery went well on Instagram. And so basically, we're kind of in a wait and see mode. Ron Rivera was asked this morning kind of the status. Obviously football is not the most important thing here, but at what point could he come back? What's that timeline like? And he said that they don't know. They're waiting for Brian to meet with his doctors this afternoon, and then they would discuss that because this team, the reality is they have to cut their roster from 80 to 53 by 4 p.m. Tuesday. And if Brian Robinson goes on non-football injury or, another list, or if they keep him on the active roster and they put him on IR, he will have to miss 4 games. So it's that impacts the calculus of who you keep and who you don't. So that is something that we're waiting on. I would expect we'll hear either later tonight or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, and it's just very unfortunate, just all the way around. And hopefully prayers out to Brian Robinson. It's quick and speedy recovery, but if he comes back and produces this season at all in any capacity, it's a miracle. And I said on Twitter, a guy deserves a statue. But let's bring this back to Baltimore. Obviously, they lost the game 17-15. It was a very good game, and the defense, for the most part, I thought did a great job in this game, holding Baltimore to only 9 first downs, and I think 1 of 8 on third downs. I thought they did a good job at that point. Who was somebody that stood out to you that really had a good game?
Yeah, I think they did have those 2 coverage busts, which to me maybe colored the situation. But I mean, a lot of those players, I think that the tough part about the third preseason game is because it's all backups. It's, how many of those guys are going to be on this team, in 24 hours. I would say that the guys that you are sure about, the guys that flashed to me, Jamin Davis making that tackle on the second play, yep. Benjamin St-Juste, James Smith-Williams, Casey Tuhill. It's good to see them get that work in. I think Milo Eifler, the linebacker, he's been working with the second team ahead of Khaleke Hudson outside. So those are kind of some of the guys that I took notice of and thought, maybe Steven Parker, the safety, is that guy competing with Jeremy Reeves. Jeremy Reeves, I think, made the play of the game in the second quarter when he read that run and blew the guy up in the backfield
awesome.
and sent all the DBs over to him on the sideline. So those were kind of my top takeaways, especially on defense from the Commanders. I'm really glad, by the way, that Mike Reed finally got an adult in the room. He's been needing that for a while.
I know. I got my babysitter here and everything, and I'm happy. You look professional today, Sam. You look good. You're all dressed to the nines. I don't know what was
I'm still at the team facility. That's why.
Oh, okay. But other than that, then you're gonna get in your FUBU and your jerseys, your starter jerseys.
Yeah, doesn't care at all when he comes on here. He's like, I don't care. But
Reed, no. Hey, that's a testament to this show's vibe. I think it's very relaxed. It's cool. I like it.
Right. You don't have to be. We're not like Logan Paulson on the sidelines of the games. Trying to make friends.
Hey Reed, go next for me. But the next question I have for you, a couple guys that did not have great games, does it bring concern to you with these guys? Maybe they should be looking elsewhere in regards to Dyami Brown and Joey Slye. Joey Slye had the missed field goal early on, and obviously that was a difference maker in the game. Then Dyami Brown needed to see him explode with Sam Howell, and that wasn't the case. He had a couple catches, but he only caught 2 receptions of 5 targets. What was your feeling with those 2?
Yeah, to me, those 2 are different. So Joey Slye for example, Ron said why he missed that kick and why he missed the extra point against Carolina. It's very simple. He kind of gets amped up and he goes out there and he like over kicks it. And Ron said, you told him on the sideline, like, dude, like swing it like a golf club. Like, you don't have to go out there and kill it. And his track record, obviously making all 12 field goals and 9 of the 10 extra points from last year, to me, that suggests like, hey, Joey Sly is going to be okay. We haven't seen like real concern from him yet. Dyami Brown, I do think, not to read too much into the preseason, but this dude has been really inconsistent. And I think that's the thing. You see, like that first catch of the game that he had, the 26-yarder where, it was tight coverage, but he elevated to make that catch. Like that was a great catch. Right. That's, I think, what they want from him with that speed, with the range. But then he has that 9 route down the right sideline where if there is any route, like Dyami Brown was drafted in the 3rd round because he caught 9 routes from Sam Howell at North Carolina. And to see that not work out and then to see that just easy drop on a slant route where he was really open, those 2 things are really concerning. And so you got to wonder at some point, like, is he able to refine that to make that more consistent?
Yeah. And that's going to be huge. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I don't want to say it, but I mean, he's got to be feeling some pressure right now after that performance. Just drops a couple easy touchdowns, right?
Right. I don't think they'll cut him. Obviously, the 3rd round pick is a ton of talent, but like
at least.
Yeah, like I mean, right now you're talking about he's wide receiver 4, theoretically, right. But like maybe if he's not as consistent, Cam Sims or Dax Milne is ahead of him. I mean, we're talking 5-6 territory.
And so. That kind of, you mentioned Dax Milne, that kind of brings me with the Brian Robinson situation. Of course, prayers up to Brian Robinson. That's terrible, but that mainly means that for the foreseeable future, Antonio Gibson is going to be primarily the first, second down back. What does that mean for the kick return and punt returners? Because originally, remember, Gibson was supposed to fill in those positions, but what's going to happen with that now?
I mean, that's a great question. I mean,
I know
then all of a sudden, if you have to put Robinson on NFI, does that open up a spot to say, hey, we're going to keep Alex Erickson to return kicks, or we're going to ask Dax to do it, or Danny Johnson has done it in the past? I mean, how does this change the roster calculus? I don't know. I don't think they know until they meet with Brian's doctors and kind of evaluate, hey, how bad is this? What does this mean for a timeline? Players, John Allen said he's going to be released today, Monday. And that suggests, maybe he's on a positive trajectory, but I don't think anybody knows,
right.
What is the timeline to return from something like this?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's got a hole in his leg, right? I mean,
how long
you
did
don't
it
know
take,
what was affected in there.
This isn't even how long did it take Plaxico Burress? Remember he had, that was
in the off season, I think.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That would make sense that he would have a lot more downtime at that point. But Sam, roster cuts are coming. They got to trim the roster down to 53. A lot of guys are going to be getting that unfortunate phone call. The first position group I want to kind of pick your brain about is the tight ends. How many tight ends are they going to keep? I'm thinking around 4. And that 4th tight end, is it possible that Armani Rogers proved that he has it, or possibly Kendall Blanton, who they just picked up last week from the Rams last season, is going to take that?
Yeah, to me, obviously there's 3 solidified in Logan, John, and Cole, and then the other 3 you're talking about Kendall, you're talking about Armani, and I think you could be talking about Curtis Hodges, right? Exactly. Right. But I would say it's probably a 2-man race right now between Armani and Kendall, and I don't know if we saw enough of Kendall for me to say like, yeah, that's the dude. Obviously, when you have when you're a Super Bowl champion, and he contributed in that Super Bowl, so yeah. I mean that's a pretty strong resume, especially as a guy that comes available on the wire, but I think they really like what Armani showed as well. And for a guy that's only been playing the position for 6 months, was a quarterback in college. So I would imagine that they would probably go Kendall just because of his experience, but maybe they like Armani and they don't want him to get away. So they go him.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense, Sam. But to wrap this up, I know you only have a couple more minutes with us. But linebacker, it's been a huge point of emphasis, and you brought up Milo Eifert, and we kind of talked. We did a breakdown for the Declassified podcast of projecting the linebacker position, and Hull and I talked about that Milo could be that 5th linebacker to sneak in. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, I think he could be the 4th linebacker. I think it's possible they only keep 4 because when you look at, I think, the amount of sub packages they play, like they played base, I want to say it was like 20 something, maybe less than that % of the time last year. It was really low. And I think when you have the top line guys that you have, well, I think there's plenty of skepticism about them, justifiably so. It's not like a Dave Mayo or a Scooter Harris or one of those guys is not going to be available on the waiver wire. Like I think you'd be more comfortable keeping fewer guys because, that's just sort of the nature of the position right now. So I think it's possible they go 4. I think it's possible they cut Khalil Hudson and keep Milo Eifert straight up. And that I believe would be Ron's first non-7th round draft pick that he would have cut. But I think that's on the table right now for that position.
Okay, absolutely. Now, rapid fire with these because I know you got to get out of here. First one, who's going to be the touchdown leader for the Commanders?
Logan Thomas. He's going to stay healthy.
I like that a lot. Who's going to be the yards leader? Obviously, barring Carson Wentz.
Terry McLaurin, I think just because he got the big contract, that's the dude. Carson Wentz, I think, really likes him. I think they'll get that connection back. So I can't imagine him not going for another 1,000.
Captains.
Oh man, I mean, John Allen, of course, Terry McLaurin, Chase Young, Carson Wentz. I feel like he's the quarterback.
I think Logan was a captain last year, and we forgot him the last time we did this.
Yes. I think that's true. And then, DeShazer is gone, so that opens up the special teams one. But I mean, I don't think they would make Derek Forrest or
Tressway,
Percy Butler that.
Cam Sims.
No, I don't think Cam Sims. I don't know. This is actually I have literally devoted zero thought to this, but this is a really interesting exercise.
Percy Butler.
No, I don't think.
I think Tress deserves
I could see Cole Holcomb as like a vote of confidence as the mic.
Yeah.
Okay,
They've been all in on Cole this offseason.
Yeah, they really have been.
Record prediction now.
I'm gonna go 9-8.
9
and I'm really glad that I remembered to say 17 games this time because I just automatically still do the 16 game thing.
So do I.
But I would say 9-8. I think there's going to be some high highs. I think there's going to be some low lows, especially with Carson Wentz at quarterback. But to me, this team is going to be better. Like 9 games, 9 wins. That's where I'm at.
My man, I appreciate that, Sam. Last one. Biggest concern heading into the season.
I would say probably the third down defense. Like I don't read too much into the preseason, and I think that
season too,
like
though.
Yeah, like they haven't shown any
progression,
so there's a good reason for you to be concerned, right?
Right. Like they I don't think they were showing everything that they're going to do, but when it's just athleticism on athleticism and you're miscommunicating or you're busting like simple coverages, especially like in that Carolina game or the Chiefs game where they were in that crosser on like 3rd and 7.
Yeah.
It's just like, how many times do you have to see it before it gets fixed? Like until I see it happen, I will not be convinced. And so that is still my biggest concern.
There you go. I think there's a lot of people in the fan base that would agree with you, Sam. I can't thank you enough for joining us. I know you're very, very busy. It's been a crazy day, obviously very hectic, and I can't thank you enough for taking some time out, brother. Until next time.
Kyle, Mike, thanks so much, guys.
All right, brother.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Enjoy
your night.
You.
Try to, at least. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Sam Fortier.
He's good. He looked good too. He looked sharp.
Look, he told me he had a little something going on Friday, and so I'm wondering if that's why he's looking all preppy and everything right now.
I think he was looking hella good.
Yeah.
And also, I will say that this is one of these mini Cokes, and I always feel like Andre the Giant or something when I drink one of these because this is like how a beer looked in his hands. Anybody want a peanut? And this is like all big.
You should be used to that every time you go to the bathroom. What's up, Hall?
No,
How you
I
doing,
know
baby?
that's true too. Very small.
Very small.
Very
What's up, dude? So guys, first thing we got to talk about your initial reactions to hearing about Brian Robinson. I know because it brings back a lot of bad memories, especially given the fact that with Sean Taylor, we heard early on that Sean was stable, was going to be okay, and then everything turned south, and that was obviously a huge concern of mine. Every minute that passed, I was checking, like, come on, man, let me hear from Brian, let me hear from Coach. Somebody let me know, like, just give me a good update. I don't want to hear the false one. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That was like pins and needles, basically. I was just kept praying and praying, man, because that was a rough hour or so.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was. I was like the entire time. I didn't trust it at first, and it wasn't anything. I mean, I wasn't trying to be negative. It's just after the whole Sean Taylor thing, I remember like getting my hopes up, like being like, well, he just got shot in the leg. It's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. They're saying that he's good. He's stable. And then next thing you know, you get that message or that notification or message, whatever it was. It was like 2007, 2008. And then you hear that he passed away and you're like, oh my God. So we're all holding our breath, I think, with Brian Robinson. Of course, it's such a tragedy because we know how hard he's worked. We know how good he looks. And he's just such a smart young man. He seems like he really seems to have a good head on his shoulders. And this type of thing can happen. It's terrifying and it's crazy. And just shout out to him, man. Thank God he's all right. He seems to be in good spirits. The team's got his back. I was pumped to see that Ron and the Snyders were down there with him and Jason Wright. And
yeah, that just made me say I love this team. You know, the fact that they went down there for him. And it's just my initial reaction, I just didn't know what to say. It was just kind of like, why? Like, why? Why does this have to happen?
As soon as I heard it, I was like, we're cursed.
And then, like, when the original report said there were 2 victims, and so the other victim, the woman, apparently had a bullet graze her head. And so when I woke up this morning and saw that there was only 1 victim in all these new reports, I was thinking, is the woman now a suspect? Like, how is she can't be not a victim now. You know, she was involved in it. How was there only 1 victim? And maybe and that's when I went down the, like, thinking, like, maybe Brian Robinson was set up. But I didn't mean to speculate. It's just, that's the way I cope with things. I like to theorize, try to figure out why things happen. And sometimes in this world, just wrong place, wrong time, and bad stuff happens, man. And unfortunately, that's the way it looks with Brian Robinson. I found out today that the woman in the car with him is actually a family member. Not his family member, but was his girlfriend. Wasn't just some random person. So that takes that theory out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, I was just hearing on the radio on my way home from work that I guess like the DC police, like because she didn't go in the ambulance and never took her away, they didn't classify her as a victim and they didn't put her name out there. Yeah. So I guess that's like a thing that normal police things happen with. I don't know many people get shot or anything.
Yeah, I was about to say not really.
You know, but yeah,
shooting walls.
No, Reed's a gangster.
Oh, I am. No, I'm usually
the mean streets.
You never seen Reed in a do-rag?
Yeah, no, but my wave game is on point. So,
I mean, do you have the gardens up in Damascus back in the day?
Hey, dude, I ran those. So
now, my first reaction was kind of, I mean, pretty much like everyone else's. Like you said, the first thing you think back to is because, I mean, whenever Reed texted in our little group chat, I was like, my first thought was, I was like, what do you mean? What happened to him? Like, he didn't play in the game yesterday. Like, what? Like, huh? And then everything, I went on social media, went on Twitter, because obviously Twitter knows everything when it comes to that type of stuff. And that was the first thing I thought. He got shot. And I was just like you said, first thing you jump back to is the whole Sean Taylor thing. And I never knew you could get shot in the leg and like die from it until Sean Taylor.
Right.
That happened
You
to
never
Sean
heard
Taylor.
about that.
I never heard of that artery in your leg ever in my life until that happened. So obviously your first thoughts go to that, and you're just like you said, the shock value. You're like, you start praying for him, like, hope everything's okay. And then as you see more and more information come out, you're like, okay, he's in good spirits, everything's okay. Seems to be like he's going to be hopefully fine after this and make a full recovery, be able to get back on the field at some point, hopefully sometime this year. But I mean, like you said, football is not even like the first thing that you think about. It's just, oh man, I hope everything's okay. Hope he's all right. Hope he's not hope nothing tragic happens. So yeah, just hope him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he gets back out there, just back to normal, as much as normal as possible that he can be sometime soon.
Yeah, I said it earlier. Like, it'd be a miracle if he produces at all this season. If he does, obviously it's the last thing on our minds. When you look back at somebody like Kaishan Jarrett, who has the nerve damage in his arm, he can't play football anymore. Who knows where that bullet hit? You know, it could have hit a nerve to the point where his leg doesn't work right anymore. And now his playing career is essentially over for the young man, and he didn't do anything wrong. Just went out for a bite to eat with his girlfriend, you know, and it's just ridiculous that obviously this has come about. And the kids, man,
it's so crazy too. That, like I frequented DC all the time. Like
when I was 15, I was just worried about video games, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
But like I always was in DC, never had anything like that obviously happen, and it's just terrible that happens to him. Like, and he's so new here. Like it's
just another thing, another distract out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Washington gets blindsided, and I know I've said it many, many times. I didn't think that Ron Rivera's first year should have counted based on what was going on off the field. And at this point, my goodness, there's just more and more that keeps piling on from all directions.
At this point, like, no year should count, because it seemed like every year is a different type of like off the field type of situation, whether it's with the team, with his personal life, something outside of the team, or something that happened to do with like one of the teammates, like family members or something like that. So hopefully they can just this galvanizes them and just makes everyone better and stronger, brings the fan base together, and hopefully we come out just like strong as ever this year.
Yeah.
Then again, I probably didn't have anything happen to me because nobody wants to steal a Ford Taurus, you know. So.
Yeah, let's go to our fan questions. This one's from Andy Lockhart in the Discord chat server. Oi! How much of a scumbag do you have to be to try to carjack someone and shoot them from behind? One bullet was in the glute, etc., so he must have been shot from behind.
Yeah.
Well, apparently B-Rob like fought one of the dudes and like pulled the gun out of his hand and like so I guess the other dude was just like, oh, this dude's huge, and just like he started shooting at him, which is
that was my
coward
original
behavior. Thought. Yeah, that's straight coward behavior. But yeah, I mean, again, anybody can get a gun nowadays. If you think it's like not hard or anything like that, like it's pretty easy. So I mean, nothing in this crazy world surprises me. But I mean, like you said, Kyle, like at 15 years old, I was worried about like, man, like I got football practice today. Like it's gonna be like crazy. Like I was worried about video games going home. Like I wasn't worried about like going out and like carjacking people. So I can't even speak to like what kind of like mentality or thought that. You know what I'm saying? Like, exactly, different life. But I mean, it's hard out here.
Is that who it was? It was a 15-year-old kid that did it?
That's what a 15 to 17 juvenile. Just obviously stupid kids and
so sad.
Just have no idea what the repercussions of their actions. To be honest,
yeah,
just stupid
makes you
kids.
wonder.
Yeah,
it makes you feel so fortunate that had the life that we've had and stuff. Like what could be going on at home life? Like that's so important, man. That shit's so sad.
That's exactly what I said to we were talking earlier. Because I was like, Brian Robinson's a big dude. You know, I've seen him in person, obviously at practice and everything. So I was wondering, like, did they know who Brian Robinson was? Did they just see the car and react? And this is like
probably just saw the car.
It's 6 p.m. on a Sunday.
Right.
You know, my goodness. Like, what are you doing? Like,
It's
you don't think there's
Lord's
people
Day.
out here? Like,
well,
what's going
I guess I was like I said, they were talking about the police report that got released, whatever. And I think they were saying that he was standing outside of his car with him and two other people. And I'm just gonna assume that the two kids saw the car, probably some type of like jewelry on him. It's just like he probably got some money on him, ran up on him, not even like really obviously knowing who he was, and then we got this situation.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That basically what happened was he started fighting back, and they're like, "Oh crap, this guy's huge."
Well, that's exactly what happened. They said he wrestled and like pulled the gun away from one of the dudes, and then the other dude, I guess, like shot him.
Ridiculous. Absolutely. But you're absolutely right, Andy. It is a coward and just a scumbag move to not only go up and rob people, you know what I mean, on God's day, let alone on Sunday.
Yeah, I just hope that
ridiculous.
When he got shot in the butt, he had the wherewithal to be like, something bit me. Yeah, Forrest Gump. That's how I deal with things. It's okay.
What a great part that
was. Like the last thing I was thinking of.
Anytime.
I'm sorry, Brian. We're sending your prayers out to your brother. It's just how stupid and cowardly, you know, like when you're.
I know.
The worst thing you could possibly do when you're getting because when you have a gun is made for defense. It's made for somebody who is threatening you. You are never supposed to use gun as the aggressor to get something in it, like a product or any sort of like trying to force someone to do anything. That should never be the case. It's always about defense. The fact that these dudes are using that to go and rob people, it's ridiculous and it's just stupid the world we live in, man.
Throw their life away for a 15-second, 20-second.
That's attempted murder.
I was about to say,
just threw their life away.
You know, they were thinking like as they were on the run, they were like, I hope that dude's alive. I hope that he's alive.
Well, they're also dumb because they dropped the gun. So like,
I know. Ah, man, kids, dude.
Kids. Yeah. So the next question was from Digital Guru. So it's been confirmed that one bullet was loaded in the butt. So it was multiple shots. Where did the other bullets land, if you know?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I didn't even
loaded in the butt. Sounded funny.
It did.
But I think it was just his
leg
in his butt.
We need the comedy, man, today out of all days. It's not, we're not making light or disrespecting Brian. It's just trying to.
No.
Because, dude, I'm telling you, that messed my mood up last night.
Oh, like, same, dude. That completely destroyed me. I'm still like blown.
Yeah.
Just because like he's a rookie, he's a young kid, man. He's got the world in front of him, and something like this just goes and takes it from him.
We just had Grant on last week, and he said it best when I was listening to him earlier. He said, if you think about anyone that's like their profile or like their like anyone that's on the rise the highest coming out of like training camp or going into the year, it's obviously Brian Robinson. Like dude coming in as a rookie, third round pick, you're just kind of expecting. Most people expected the Peyton Barber role, like a little bit
Yep.
expanded.
Me too. That's what I thought.
Yeah, next thing you know, coming into week 1, 2 weeks away, he's about to be a starter running out in the field,
And
taking the first handoff of the game, and bam.
AG's only entering his 3rd year. He just rushed for over 1,000 yards. Like he was supposed to be the next big thing. And also Brian Robinson played so well that he was a kick returner. You know, I mean, I know that he was still going to get carries and play time. No disrespect to AG, but like that's how good Brian Robinson played. Like they were, you know, they had big plans for him.
You're absolutely right. And the one thing I told Andy's pod, I was like, look, man, basically with Brian Robinson, is like his vision is uncanny. Absolutely uncanny. And
his vision and his patience. Right. And like when he makes a decision, hits the hole.
Absolutely. And it's like when the hole is not even there yet and he's already through it. Right. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's absolutely beautiful to be able to watch this happen. And I thought that his vision was special. To be perfectly honest with you, I thought it was special. Like, and that's why I didn't think it was more so something to do with Antonio Gibson. I thought it was more with what Brian Robinson showed. It was like this elite vision.
100%. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Like, it was like amazing to see it because I was just like you guys. I thought he was just going to be a ground and pounder. But then the way that he's going through these holes, like, wow, no, this dude's actually getting something when there's not supposed to be anything there.
It's one of those things too where it makes you think, it makes you wonder, you're like, what happened in college? Like, why did he not carry the ball more? Like, I know that he was still a big deal at Alabama, but like
5 others.
No, I know, but it's one of those things where it's like also Terry, like Terry's the best out of Paris Campbell and them, like easily. And like Terry didn't get targeted nearly as much as any of those guys.
Some dudes are just better NFL players than college players. And
well, also, I mean, if somebody comes in as a higher rated recruit, usually they'll get more. You know,
exactly.
But,
people look at like 5th-year seniors at Alabama, like, oh, like why are you still here, type of thing. As opposed to like,
that's like the
you
weird.
should be gone in 2-3 years. Like, why? You know what I'm saying? So.
It is weird, man. It really is. And we are going to be joined by our next guest here very, very shortly, being Matthew Paris. What a crazy day, man. But I want to get your guys' reactions to the game on Saturday if you were able to watch it. Dyami Brown did not look too great. I thought that because when I talked to Awad on the radio the other day, I told him, I said, I want to see Sam Howell go against the two. Like, I want to see him go without Dyami Brown because we know that he has that natural ability with Dyami. They have the experience together. I want to see him do it without him. And Sam Howell did it without him. Dyami Brown produced a little bit. So when they combined them together on Saturday, I was really excited to see what they were going to produce. And Dyami Brown let me down, man. Not going to lie to you. I don't think it was footsteps. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but that 9 route that he ran, that ball hit him in the hands. And I don't know who you are. I don't know what your background is. But any football coach that talks to you says if it hits you in the hands, catch it.
You got to catch it.
You have to catch it. And I'm sorry. I know that Sam Howell didn't put a lot of touch on it, but you get paid to catch footballs, brother.
Right.
And you caught footballs from him in college. So you should already kind of have that kind of, obviously, I mean, you've been practicing with him too, I would assume. So you should already kind of have that synchronous with them, with each other. I mean, and like I said, I didn't watch the game. Obviously, I watched like a lot of the highlights, a lot of like the reruns here and there when I could. But yeah, Dyami Brown is someone that definitely stood out, but not in a good way to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. But now we are joined by our next guest, Mr. Matthew Paris. We're hitting the ground running here, Paris. That's cool with you, sir?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to get your reaction. Who's somebody that stood out from the game on Saturday, an unsung hero, so to speak?
Well, I don't know necessarily if he's unsung, but the job that Jeremy Reeves did on that one tackle, I think, to me, solidified his roster spot. Just before we started going on here, they already cut Stephen Parker, and if Reeves didn't make it, I mean, that's who you probably would have given the spot to. So I think Parker's cut is a really good sign for him. And, Jeremy Reeves has had a really impressive summer. It wasn't just that Saturday game. He's been really consistent, and after being cut for 4 straight years, it's time. I think now's as good of a case that he's going to make the active roster, and I think he deserves it.
Hall?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously someone that stood out, we were just talking about this, someone that stood out to me, but kind of like in a negative way from that game. Obviously, Dyami Brown, he had the big drop that everyone's been talking about. Everyone's kind of just been waiting for him to emerge as that deep threat guy. Obviously, with Carson Wentz here, everyone kind of assumes his role would expand now. But it seems like he hasn't really taken over that wide receiver 4 spot. Do you think that Cam Sims has a chance to be that wide receiver 4, or do you think it's still Dyami's spot?
No, I do. I mean, I think, but think of it this way, like rather than just who's receiver 4 or 5, whatever, they're going to have to make inactives on game day because you can only keep 6 people up. And so your 6 receivers, you're not going to keep 6 receivers up. Teams really don't do that. You're going to need Dax for being the punt returner if you cut Alex Erickson. And then Cam Sims plays a really vital role on special teams. I believe he's one of the gunners.
Yep.
And he's a red zone target too. So that leaves Dyami kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a healthy scratch. I know like coaches mentioned Dyami in their plans of, mentioning him as the vertical option for Wentz down the field. I don't know if that's actually going to consistently bear out. And, he's had his opportunities in the preseason, but I think he's underwhelmed in that regard.
Yeah. And obviously, so we know Chase Young's going to be missing some time early on. It's going to take him a little while to get back in. But we've had some pretty good plays from some of these young guys. Of course, Shaka Toney's sack last week comes to mind. Which one of these young guys do you think has solidified a spot with this team?
Yeah, I don't know about solidified. I have Toney making it over William Bradley King, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it were to go the other way. I mean, a lot of the younger guys on the bubble are kind of like questions to me, just with Christian Holmes, for example, at cornerback. Even a guy like Khaleke Hudson, I know he's not that much younger anymore, but could he be in jeopardy of losing a roster spot? Like, I had him making it, but I noticed a couple other of my fellow beat writers.
Sam Fortier just said he might not make it.
Oh, is that what he was doing?
Yeah,
I heard him talking in the other room. And
really?
God, you guys are right next to each
I
other.
heard him talking. So that's funny.
Yeah, that is good.
is.
You should bring him over here and shame him.
No, but Paris, my next question for you, because obviously the Brian Robinson news has kind of thrown everything for a little bit over the last 24 hours, and no fault of Brian Robinson, but with the running back room, do you think that they're going to keep only 4 running backs? And then with the quarterbacks, Carson Strong got released or cut from the Eagles. There are some people rumbling about maybe we should bring him here as on the practice squad. Obviously, he was here before. What do you think is going to happen with that quarterback room?
Yeah, it's an interesting question of whether I don't believe Carson Strong was here before.
Carson Strong wasn't here before.
I'm mixing his name up with somebody else.
Maybe a draft visit, but he was a guy that they looked at prior to the draft.
And, that's what it was. Yes.
Yeah.
Cole.
I mean, the story that Scott Turner likes to tell is they went to visit Nevada and people thought they were there for Carson Strong, but they were really there for Cole Turner.
And the beautiful head of hair that he's got.
So, they've had a good chance to look at him. If they want to keep a developmental or like an arm, on their practice squad, maybe that makes sense. But at the same time, you're going to really need Sam Howell to do those scout team duties, with the season coming up here. So I don't necessarily know if they'll add a quarterback to their practice squad. Maybe they will, but I don't know. And what was the other question? Sorry.
It was the running backs.
The running backs.
Jonathan Williams, Jarrett Patterson. Now, do they have a?
Those guys were already in the mix before
Right.
Robinson got hurt. It wouldn't have shocked me if they kept 4 running backs. I had them keeping 3, but Jonathan Williams is a guy that I think has really kind of earned it. I know Jarrett Patterson was the fan favorite last summer. He had a really strong game Saturday, but Williams has kind of been ahead of him in the pecking order in terms of reps. I know they mix things around, but it seems like consistently Williams had got the nod over him. And he was also a contributor on special teams. When they moved Antonio Gibson to the special teams that one day, and he was doing that like slot blocker role, when he wasn't doing that, Jonathan Williams was the next guy in there. So I think that's kind of how they value him. They see him as an important role, and I think they like his veteran presence.
Right. And flipping to the other side of the ball, linebacker has been a hot topic this whole offseason. It looks like Jamin Davis has taken a couple steps forward. Seems like he's like reading and reacting a little bit better now. And what Cole Holcomb represents. The rest of the guys are kind of just special teams guys. Do you think they're going to add a veteran once the rest of these league cuts down their rosters, or do you think they're just rolling in with what they have now?
Yeah, I believe it when I see it. I mean, they did add Nate Gary, but he didn't last too long. Maybe he would have made the 53, but I mean, who knows? It's a position that is definitely the thinnest on the roster because, like you mentioned, after the top 2 guys, it drops off quick. And even, Holcomb and Davis, they're fine. Davis has made strides, like you mentioned. I think he's a lot better in the passing game, but he's been slower to come along than you would hope for at that position. And then Holcomb is fine. You know, he's not, I don't believe, an above average linebacker, but he's definitely can fill the job. But yeah, I mean, if there was a big name out there or anything, they would look at it, but they just haven't so far. It just kind of depends on what happens. But last year they kept 4 linebackers and then added a 5th shortly after cutdown day. But that 5th was someone they brought back. So maybe they do something like that again. They like cut Mila Ifer and then bring him back a few days later. But I don't know.
Yeah, what a roller coaster that's got to be. I've seen on Hard Knocks when players get cut, how tough that is, and to come in there and be like, "Hey, man, we're gonna let you go," and then like 2 days later, they're like, "Hey, by the way, you're coming back." You're like, "God, man, I just canceled my life."
That's what's kind of like, you know, I like the expanded practice squads. It's good those people have jobs, but it's like it kind of takes away the fun of projecting something where it's like, okay, well, if he doesn't make the 53, he'll still be here. And like, there are just so many guys now.
Well, speaking of, I mean, the practice squad. Yeah. Speaking of the practice squad, we had we talked about Sam, or we talked to Sam about this a little bit, but how many tight ends do you think that they keep, and who, if they do keep 4, who do you think the 4th one is?
Armani Rogers.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I think early in camp it was a real competition between him and Curtis Hodges. Hodges has gotten hurt here, and frankly, Rogers has looked like the better tight end. You know, he's big, he has that size, he's really performed well considering he's played pretty much every preseason like snap. You know, he was out there a little bit, but yeah. So I think it's Rogers, and it's really impressive given that he was a quarterback like last fall.
Yeah, and he's been very consistent with every quarterback they put in there. He catches every ball that's thrown to him, and he's obviously shown that he has the connection with Carson Wentz already. And if you're looking for somebody in an emergency role to step in, if that's the case, that's the perfect guy you'd want. So I agree with you that it's Armani Rogers. But Matt, to wrap up this interview, I only have a couple more questions for you. The sack leader for the season.
You know what? I'll put some stock in Montez Sweat. I thought he's really had kind of a bounce back training camp. You've seen him in the backfield. Now, I will say that why I paused for a second is because it wouldn't surprise me if Jonathan Allen was the sack leader again, because this team generates a lot of pressure from the interior. They do a really good job, and they have some great players at that position. But, you know, the team needs production from the edge. Chase Young is still a little bit of a ways, and even once he comes back, what does his production look like? So, you know, I think Montez Sweat maybe in the 9 or maybe in the 10-11 range.
Interceptions leader.
We'll say Cam Curl always seems to have like a nice feel for sniffing plays out. Maybe he gets 1 or 2 and then 3 or 4. Like Curl, or you know, Kenneth Fuller's also had a really nice camp, so maybe Fuller, but we'll go with Cam Curl just to say something different.
I agree with you there. Now, other side of the ball, Carson Wentz. Because obviously in his career, he loves to average 27 and 7. You know, it's a joke that we love to talk about on here. What is your prediction for his production this season?
Yeah, you know, I think the marker to watch is kind of 4,000 yards, and I know that's not necessarily sexy, but he's kind of, you know, hasn't hit that threshold a lot like other quarterbacks have.
That'd be a career year for him.
Whatever.
Yardage.
Yeah. So I think around that mark, if I had to guess, I'd probably go over the 7 interception mark that he had last year, just because this is a new system. He's still working through the kinks, isn't as comfortable with kind of the reads and the progressions. Now, when he misses high, and I think that does cut down on the interception total. But I would say that as for touchdowns, yeah, I mean, he has some talent. And maybe that 20, let's see, what's 2 a game, 2 times 17 is 34, so we'll say 30.
My man, I like that prediction a lot, Matt. That would make me very happy. Last one. What's your record prediction for the season, and do they make the playoffs?
Yeah, you know, I think 9 and 8, somewhere in there, but I think that should be good enough to be the 7th seed.
There you and Sam picked the same record. It's like you guys could hear each other.
I did hear Kyle recording his podcast intro, but that's the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
Paris, I can't thank you enough for being able to come on here and talk some ball with us, sir, and giving us some updates. I really do appreciate it, brother.
Oh, yeah, appreciate it. Thanks.
Until next time.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep.
All right, everybody, we just talked to the man, Mr. Matthew Paris of the Washington Times.
We should message Sam. We should have them have a rumble, and we can record it.
Do a
Who's gonna
rumble.
win? One
Hey,
man walks away.
So let's get into our fan questions. Let's get our first one in here. And we have a couple, pretty actually really good ones that were sent in through Twitter. This one I want to go to it's from Steve Lim, former guest of ours. One surprise cut from the offense and one from the defense. Reed.
I am going to go from the offense. Like, I don't think that it's going to happen, but this is something that I've said during the offseason. Trey Turner, he hasn't played. He hasn't put much on tape. Maybe they really like Schweitzer. Maybe they're comfortable with Chris Paul or Sadiq Charles as well as a backup. I don't know. I highly doubt it, but like I said. And then on defense, I'm going to go Khaleke Hudson. I didn't think that was going to be possible just with the linebacker depth and his skill set. But after hearing Sam talk, it does kind of he hasn't really done nearly as much, as some of these other guys. So,
yeah, it's supposed to be a surprise cut. I'm not really sure who would be a surprise cut on the offense at this point.
Carson Wentz.
But I guess Taylor Heineke. That's the one I'm going with, just because I don't think Sam Howell has done enough to progress to show that he is quality worthy of the backup. I'm just saying, if I have to pick one for the offense, I'll have to go with Taylor. But I love you, Taylor. You're the backup. You're the man.
I guess the surprise cut for me would be Jonathan Williams, and it'd only be a surprise because from everything we've heard, it's been his job over Patterson. So if they decided to keep Patterson over Williams, that would be a little bit of a shock to me. Not really like affecting the roster as a whole because they're like the fourth guy, but you know what I'm saying? It would still be a shock. Defense. Yeah, I can't really think of anybody outside of like maybe like David Mayo, Khaleke Hudson, one of those two guys. And I don't even see that happening. Only way I see that happening is if they see a veteran get cut and they got to drop a linebacker to pick up a veteran guy with a little bit more experience. And I think maybe Khaleke Hudson would be on the cutting block, but like Matthew Parris said, you got to see it to believe it at this point. And I don't know if they're going to do it or not.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I guess I'll go, if I had to pick one, I would say David Mayo. I'm sure that's not a surprise to many people out there, but there's just not really anyone you can pick that would be a surprise at this point. You could even say Danny Johnson, but that wouldn't be surprising to a lot of people. But I appreciate
I would say like that kind of just goes to show that this team is like, I'm not going to say like they're solidified and they're solid, but you know how every year you have that preseason, like that kind of start. Everyone's like, oh, he's got to make the team, man. He's going to be a star. And then he gets cut and everyone's like blown about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like this year there was never really like that kind of like guy on either side of the ball. So it just goes to show they brought a lot of people back and they pretty much believe in the guys that they have here.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point, sir, and I do agree with you. The surprise cut is always hard for me to do because like I don't want to wish bad on anybody, especially like that. You know what I mean? The next question is from Tony Franchise. Reed, I will go to you first. Could you see Ron after this season or next stepping down as coach but staying in charge of player personnel?
I do think that that's going to be his natural progression of things. I don't see it happening after this season. Who knows with the way things go? Maybe there's just so much going on, but I do see that happening eventually. I don't know if it'll happen that soon, but I could maybe possibility after next season, for sure. But yeah, I think that's going to be the natural progression of things.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That's the only way I've seen this whole thing play out, just based on everything they've gone through here together. Like it's what
Right.
a crazy relationship this must be for Washington and Ron Rivera, like pulling at the strings of your relationship all the time based on everything going down. I'm sure it's got to be a hard job for Ron Rivera, you know what I mean? It's just what a crazy situation. But now we are joined by our last guest of this episode. You guys know him very well on Twitter, Mr. Mark Bullock, my brother from the UK, the film guru. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys?
Doing well, sir.
Good.
And
Yeah.
preseason's wrapping up here. So I want to get your opinion because, you watch the film, you look at these guys each and every play. I want to get your opinion on the quarterbacks thus far through the first three preseasons. If you were to rank their play 1 through 3.
I think Carson Wentz was still the number one guy, and obviously he was playing against the harder opposition, and I think he showed everything he needed to show. Like, obviously they didn't have the big plays that you would love to see, but we saw the process was good, and he was able to get guys to the line of scrimmage, and there was no delay of game penalties. There was no receivers lining up in the wrong spot and all that kind of thing. So we saw the process from him being good, and in general, his mental process after the snap was good as well. Sam Howell really impressed me, especially in that last preseason game. He had more of those issues that I just talked about with getting guys aligned in that final preseason game. But generally that wasn't a problem for him in the first two. So that was a little bit odd, but maybe they were throwing a little bit more at him in terms of kind of wordy plays and stuff like that. But he still impressed me with his play. Once the ball snaps, it doesn't matter if they're getting lined up and stuff. It's what the result was. And I thought he played really well. Heineke was, Taylor Heineke. He was fine, and he had the interception in that first game, and kind of meh overall. But he is what he is at this point, and he's going to be a solid backup option.
Definitely. So now that they have Carson Wentz at the helm and quarterback, how confident are you that Scott Turner is going to be able to put these guys in the right positions as far as his play calling for them to have a successful season?
Yeah, I think Turner has been held back a little bit by the quarterbacks that he's had. He's not had a guy that can push the ball down the field like Wentz can. And there's been a lot of missed opportunities. And we've seen over the last year or two that, Terry McLaurin's been running wide open down the field, and other guys have been running wide open, and the quarterback's just not been able to hit them in stride. And the amount of times McLaurin's had to come back to a ball and have it what should have been an easy touchdown over the top end up being a contested throw from an underthrown ball. Like, that kind of stuff is really frustrating, especially for a play caller, because that should be a touchdown in the end of the drive rather than a 30-yard pass that should have been a 90-yard touchdown. So those things are frustrating for a play caller, and I'm confident that Turner will be able to dial up those shots, because that is something that the offense is known for. The history of the scheme is known for, and he's been able to scheme guys open deep before. It's just they've not had the quarterback to be able to hit it. So I think with Wentz, they will be able to hit those shots.
Right. We touched on Dyami Brown earlier, but you're a film guru. What is wrong with him? I don't want to say, it sounds kind of mean, but what is it about him that, like, what is he doing wrong? Because the guy seems to have all the skill set in the world. They're giving him opportunities, and I know obviously he's not catching the ball too well, but I mean, what is it like? What does he need to improve on?
Yeah, I would say that there's some concentration drops in there. The two that he had against the Ravens were kind of, balls that I think he was starting to look at where the safety was rather than thinking about securing the catch first. And that can be where problems come for receivers, where they're not watching the ball into their hands, making sure that they've got control of the ball and then reacting to what's happening after that. I think certainly on the one near the end zone, he probably was feeling like that safety is rather close, and was anticipating a hit. And the slant that he had on third down on that opening drive wasn't too dissimilar. That safety was driving down on him, and was close to landing a big hit, and still made contact with him. So I think that's probably what it is that he's worried about the contact, and not focusing on catching the ball first and then worrying about the contact after.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Mark, one of the biggest concerns for Washington fans is the third down defense. It was not very good last season. They haven't shown much progress thus far in the preseason. What have you seen from that third down defense? Is there like a glaring issue? What are you seeing?
There's a lot of issues. In the first game against the Panthers, it was more of what they had last year, where it was communication stuff, and there was a situation where Danny Johnson was in the slot and he looked like he was playing zone, but everyone else was playing man, so his guy ran free. And then he got beat on another play later on, and there was some miscommunication stuff. In the second preseason game against the Chiefs, it was more a case of they weren't always being put in the right situations to succeed. And in preseason, obviously, there's no real game planning. You're not like scripting plays to specific opponents. You're just seeing what your defense can do, and you're testing sometimes what they can and can't handle. So. And, when you're going against a guy like Patrick Mahomes, that sometimes they can't handle certain things. But there were things like they called that blitz on Mahomes on third down, and Mahomes is known for tearing up blitzes, and he did. And that put Cam Curl in a weird spot where he was trying to pop out from the line of scrimmage to cover a receiver up the seam. So there's some play calling things like that that they're not helping. And then there was some pass rush issues. They obviously don't have Chase Young right now, and they're really feeling that because Montez Sweat is the only one consistently generating pressure on the outside, and John Allen is obviously doing what he does inside and generating a nice push. But those two often come off the same side, and if they come off the same side, they can generate a ton of pressure, but the quarterback can just roll out the other way. And so they need someone from the other side to be able to close that pocket, stop the quarterback being able to roll out. And that was what Mahomes did really well with the Chiefs in that second preseason game. So that was one of the bigger issues I thought that stood out more to me this year than it did last year.
Yeah, I know, Mark. I know we kept you up way past your bedtime, so I only have a couple more questions for you, sir. I promise. But you just brought up Montez Sweat. Obviously, they're going to be without Chase Young for a quick period of time. How confident are you in Montez Sweat? What you've seen thus far in this preseason? Are you seeing progress from last season?
Yeah, I've been encouraged by him. And there's been some different reports in training camp of having kind of up and down days, but in terms of I'm not out there, so I don't see those up and down days. I can only go off of the preseason games. So in the games, he's been pretty effective, and we've seen him have a little bit more of a developed pass rush. He's not sticking to his little stutter moves and stuff. He's developing more of a rush plan where he has a go-to move, but then he can fall back on a different move or have a plan C or a plan D if certain moves don't work. So that's a more developed rush plan, and that's going to make him a more accomplished rusher rather than just relying on sheer athleticism or hoping that his first move work, and if it doesn't, then he's stuffed. So that is an encouraging thing for me. I still think he has a ways to go as a pass rusher, but if he can put some more moves together and get his hand fighting down, and continue to lean on his long arm rush, which is something that should be a huge weapon for him because of his length. If he can lean on that and maybe lean into his speed rush off the edge a little bit more, I think that's a really good foundation for him to build from, and hopefully going into what could be, potentially a contract extension next year, we'll see some more progress from him this year.
Absolutely. And then last one I have for you, the offensive line. They finally got Trey Turner back. Looks like Wes Schweitzer, Andrew Norwell are back in the starting lineup. What is your expectations with the offensive line this season? What have you seen thus far on tape? Obviously, I know you've seen a lot of the backups in preseason, but Matzko's lineups are always producing in a very consistent manner. So what are you expecting of the offensive line this season?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most impressive things of this coaching staff since Rivera's come in has been Matzko and his offensive line. And almost regardless of who's gone in there, they've sort of produced. And that part of that is down to the scheme. Like Scott Turner's done a pretty nice job of using like tight ends and running backs to chip and help the guys on the edge. And they did a really smart scheme last year when Sam Cosmi was struggling at right tackle early on against pass rushers, and they were able to slide Sheriff his way and help him a lot. And Sheriff was able to do that because A, he's really good, and B, Chase Roulier was able to slide over as well, and Roulier was really good. So, those are some of the schematic things they did to help. But in general, the play from whoever's gone in there has been solid, and I think there's no reason to think that it won't continue that way because Matzko has earned the benefit of the doubt with that group. So I think it will be solid. I think Norwell and Turner obviously have experience in that system. Wes Schweitzer really impressed last year. If Chase Roulier comes back to 100%, he was playing at a very, very high level when he got injured last year. And if Sam Cosmi can continue to develop, then I think they're in good shape.
My man, totally agree with you, Mark. That's why I like bringing you on here, dude, because you're so smart the way that you break down the game of football. You don't even need to be at practices, sir. You got it all the way over in the UK. Mark, before you get out of here, would you just like to plug your social media handle just in case anybody watching wants to come follow your work?
Sure. It's at Mark Bullock NFL on Twitter. And then my Substack is markbullock.substack.com if you want to read my work there.
Of course. Thank you so much, Mark. Go and enjoy your night rest, sir. Don't let us keep you up anymore.
No worries. Cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank
Have a good one. All right, everybody. We just spoke with the man, Mr. Mark Bullock, dude.
Dude, his Twitter's so good.
He does a really good job of breaking down film. Yeah. And I remember when he first came out, like he was trying to understand the game. He's an expert at this point.
Yeah,
Very quick learner.
Dude, Yeah, he is one of the best Twitters to follow if you're a
Now,
Washington
let's
fan.
go rapid fire, boys. We got our fan questions here. This one's from Scott Hartley Hall. Oi!
Oi.
What worries you more, lack of depth at corner or linebacker?
It's a good question. I'll say linebacker only because, like we've already talked about, Jamin Davis taking the steps forward, but is he going to be able to do that consistently on a week in, week out basis? Cole Holcomb's very solid linebacker, and we know what he's going to do, what he's going to produce for us. But outside of that, like you said, the drop off kind of gets out of there. And then with the cornerbacks, yeah, you got the starters, but you got a guy like Bobby McCain that can drop down and play some cornerback. And I know Danny Johnson had a rough preseason, but I feel like if he gets a communication thing down a little bit more, then he can be serviceable at times. So
It's not that. It's the fact that he's better suited for the Buffalo nickel slot corner, and they keep putting him out wide. I said this to A1 on the radio. If you put Landon Collins on the outside, he's going to bite on that double move, and he's going to be trailed. But he still does well in the Buffalo nickel. It's when you put him outside, that's when he looks crappy. In my whole thing with Danny Johnson. Poor Danny, man. But that was bad, though. That was brutal. That was so bad.
Yeah, that was.
Now let's
DeMarcus
read.
Robinson went.
Sorry, Hall. I didn't mean to cut you off. That was funny. Read this next question is from Sharp Eye Washington. I'm assuming B-Rob will be on IR designation for return, but what about the third running back spot? Jonathan Williams or Jarrett Patterson?
So, of course, I think all of us like Jarrett Patterson, but I think as we've heard and we've kind of seen, I think Jonathan Williams has kind of been above him in camp. So I think that he's more likely to make it, although right now I wouldn't be surprised if both of them do.
Yep, I agree with you there. This next question is from Wahoo Dad, our guy. He asked, did anyone find out what happened to Torrey McTyer? Can we leave Torrey alone, please? It's hilarious.
Yeah, I
It's
did.
hilarious,
I did, though. I did. He's not playing anywhere. Nobody knows why. He just disappeared off. His Wikipedia, it stops mid-paragraph, and it just ends.
Dude, that was a funny bit back in the day. No disrespect to Torrey McTyer. It's not. This is an old bit that Wahoo said. But Wahoo's next question, Hall, Nutella or peanut butter?
Which one does your dog prefer, Hall?
he's a peanut butter guy.
Yeah. I figured he'd like the nuts.
That was a good
You know
little
what I'm
bit.
saying?
That was a good
JP
one.
on
That was a
Twitter the
good
other
one.
day.
Nah, I like peanut
yeah,
butter over Nutella. So does my dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a peanut butter guy all day long. Like even like smoothies, like like they had those meal replacement smoothies, the peanut butter smoothie all day long, dude. I like
Yeah.
Nutella. Nutella is really good, but it's like with peanut butter, it gives you protein.
Yeah, you look like you skip a lot of. You look like you need meal replacement. You look like you look like you just got off Survivor. But anyway,
Do I look like Brady?
kind of a little bit? Yeah, you look like one of the mannequins that.
Brady looks
showed
like he
off
was just
these
in
jerseys.
Castaway.
Yeah, I was like, he lost like 15 pounds in like a 2-week span while he was gone. Like, what the hell?
He was vacationing with Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers was just on Joe Rowe.
Yeah, that was a good episode.
That was
I
a
listened to
good
that.
episode.
And I liked his
Yeah.
explanation for the old immunization thing and how
Mhm.
everyone jumped on about that. He kind of explains it very well. Not
Yeah.
everyone knew that he was allergic to one of the things inside of the vaccine.
Yeah,
So he had to look other way around. And
He's
everyone
also
fried him.
he's also a lot of people don't know that he's also a dirty hippie.
You're stupid. Now,
Peanut butter.
This next question is from the Colonel Reed. I want to go to you with this first. What trends, good and bad, did you notice as particular areas of emphasis from our preseason games?
Well, back to Aaron Rodgers. Why does he date bow-legged broads like Danica Patrick? No. Trends that I noticed from the preseason games.
Yes.
It's kind of hard to get a grasp on trends in preseason, but that is. I mean, there obviously are some. Man, that's kind of tough. I think that one of the trends that we will see is that we saw all offseason, or we heard all offseason about how the secondary was playing very well together and that communication was huge and that they just seemed to have turned a corner. And it right now, I know it's preseason, so we shouldn't all, get all up in each other's business like this and get all down on something. But I think that it's going to be an issue again going forward, and it might take them a few games to kind of iron that out. And that's a trend, believe it or not. That is a trend. I don't know if I answered it, but
The good trend I was going to say is that they were running the ball efficiently.
Okay.
And unfortunately, without Brian Robinson in the picture for the foreseeable future, that is a concern for me, but that was a good trend in the right direction. But I trust Matsko and company for them to open up the holes for AG, J.D. McKissick, and everyone else, which is just unfortunate what happened. Now, the bad trends is the offense is their passing tree is still very – obviously it's still very vanilla because it's preseason, but I didn't see many strike attacking style kind of things. It's almost like taking what the defense gives you, and there's nothing enforcing, no attacking the defense. It's just the defense is stopping us, so this is what we're going at. And that's like kind of a bad trend that I've kind of seen, but that could be due to it being preseason. You know, Scott doesn't want to open up his playbook, which I totally understand. And if he told me that, he said, Kyle, you're stupid, this is why I do it, I would say, Scott, you're right. I am stupid. What about you, Reed? You already said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a good trend that hopefully stays with a good trend is I've said this before, but a lot of all the hype was made about Carson and Indianapolis, how he doesn't take the layups, doesn't take the easy throws, the checkdowns. And it seemed like he's been hitting his checkdowns, taking the easy throws, taking what the defense has been giving him so far. So hopefully he keeps in that direction and keeps up with that. A negative trend, I'm going to stick with the third down defense just because like Rob Rivera talked about after the game.
They held him to 1 for 8 on third down.
They did. But it was also like not a lot of the guys that are going to be getting like actual snaps.
They don't get that excuse when there's 2 bombs put on them.
Oh yeah, no, trust me. I'm just saying whenever they were getting their reps and their snaps, I know. Ron Rivera still talking about the rush lanes and the discipline, the rush discipline, and so hopefully they can get that corrected in the next 2 weeks. So because if not, I could definitely see Trevor Lawrence coming out there and just kind of shredding us up. So I got to get that under control.
You're absolutely right. Trevor Lawrence looks great. But guys, to wrap up this episode, we got one more question from our guy Tim Towner. This is a fantastic question, bro.
Love Tim.
What will be the offensive identity of this team? This injury to Robinson changes everything for now. I think they may keep 4 running backs, with McKissick getting much more playing time and AG getting 10 to 15 touches a game. It's a great question because it was ground and pound strategy with Brian Robinson at the helm. Obviously, without him there, this is a great question from Tim. What's going to be their identity, Hall?
Oh, man, I think I still think they're going to try to be a ground and pound type of team, but I think it's going to be – actually, you know what? You're right. With the B-Rob going out, I think they want to be that. I think they're going to be more of a quick passing, like use the passing game as an extension of the running game type of team, just to kind of open up things. And, I think they're still going to try to ground and pound it with AG and J.D. McKissick, Jonathan Williams, whoever else is back there. But I definitely think it's going to be more of a quick strike offense, a quick get the ball out your hands, quick type of offense, and a lot more like motion pre-snap with Curtis Samuel and whatnot. So I think that'll be the identity until Robinson can get back.
Yeah, I would love for their identity to obviously be ground and pound. That's what we strive for. We'd love to be able to do it because there's nothing more suffocating to a defense than saying, you can't stop us. We're about to run it down your throat. That being said, with Brian Robinson being out, it kind of changed things in the eyes of the coaching staff because they were not as invested in turning Antonio Gibson into a running back. What I meant by that is they're not going to say we need to give this guy touches and running between the tackles because they are not interested in producing him more running back. They want to use his talents at the most that they can. So in that breath, I hope their identity turns to what Carolina was with Christian McCaffrey, where they were running the ball down the middle, but they were throwing him the ball a lot, getting him out in space, getting the ball to these other guys outside, and kind of moving the ball in that direction. And I think that's essentially what Hall was like talking about. And I would absolutely love that type of defense with the added ability of throwing the ball deep, especially when Carson rolls out or off play action. What do you think?
I understand what you're saying, but remember last year when they went on that winning streak, Antonio Gibson was getting a good amount of carries and he was doing very well. And then of course we got struck by the injuries. He started putting the ball on the turf, but I think that they do still want to try to establish the run and be a run first offense. But like you said, I think they're going to end up being more of a quick strike passing attack. And I kind of like Hall said, and like you were saying, Kyle, I think that they are just going to try to get the ball to Antonio Gibson and J.D. McKissick in any way that they can, not necessarily going to be between the tackles. And that's just kind of where the skill set's at right now without Brian Robinson.
Yeah, and Brian Robinson was a great passing down back, not
because
of only when he caught the ball, but he was a pass blocker. J.D. McKissick excels as a pass blocker, and Antonio Gibson was working on it in this offseason, but he needs to get a little bit better at it to invoke the confidence to be able to play all 3 downs, if that makes sense. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. It's a somber day, kind of a weird day with Brian Robinson. I'm glad he's okay. Sending more prayers out to him. I hope that everything is okay with his recovery. You know, we don't want kind of like that Alex Smith situation to happen with the bacteria and infection. Want to make sure that Brian Robinson recovers perfectly fine.
Takes
and is
his
healthy.
time.
Take your time, brother. There's no rush. I'm sure you want to get back out there. Calm down. It's all good, man. We got you. We'll carry the ship for you until you're back. All right, everybody.
I will.
Kyle?
I'm thinking my next jersey might be a white and burgundy Robinson number 8 jersey. It's looking kind of
that's
looking kind of crispy out there.
Dude,
so,
if he comes back and like has a good year,
oh yeah,
he's gonna live.
He's gonna be a superstar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. If he gets another shot, we like to have fun. No, yeah, but I was thinking
you're the
about
person everyone's complaining about on Twitter.
Oh yeah, right. You're getting into arguments with people.
That's true. I was.
Yeah. No, yeah, the white jerseys are dope. No, but yeah, I hope I'm Brian Robinson's biggest supporter. I hope he gets this all figured out and he gets healthy, because life's more important than football, baby. I just hope that he's not scarred permanently, mentally or physically.
Ridiculous. All right, everybody. We'd love to hear your comments. What's your biggest concern heading into the season for the Commanders? And also, what is your record prediction for the Commanders for this season? I'd love to hear it. I was on the radio earlier, and I said that I think it's going to be 10-7. I still think they're going to be in the positives in the first double-digit win season. Look, if you look at this team from this year to last year, they got better. I don't care what anyone says. They did get better in the most important areas. So I'm very excited about that. We want to hear your thoughts, everybody. Thank you so much.
Have an easier schedule, too.
I'm Kyle.
Paul.
And we'll see you guys on Friday. Please be safe. Have a great week. Have a great week. Please be safe, everybody. We'll see you on
I'm former
Friday.
NFL scout Daniel Kelly.
We'll see you then. Washington football. Woo! Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Kyle. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. And if you liked what you saw, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. That way you get notified when anything new is uploaded to the channel. Also, we just launched theburgundyzone.com. You can go there and find all of our latest news, articles, and the latest episodes that are uploaded. Again, we also have the Discord chat server, where all of our VIP folks are in, like Andy Burrows, Scott Hartley, Sergio Martin is in there as well. Don't miss out on the Discord chat server. Go and check that out. Until next